This is Kits and Wagers. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen to talk Game Week 13 in the Premier League. We're coming off the international break, and we're coming in early in the week because we got, for the Americans out there, we got Thanksgiving tomorrow. So we're getting this out of the way before we stuff our faces with whatever kind of foods we eat on Thanksgiving. But Chris, it's Game Week 13. Talking about Thanksgiving, something that keeps coming up to me as I listen to NFL podcasts and whatnot. It's week 12 in the NFL, and basically the fantasy season, there's only I think 1 or 2 weeks left of regular season fantasy football, depending on what league you're in, maybe 3. And you look at the Premier League, Game Week 13, we got 38 game weeks, and it just comes up to me. It's like, did I pick the wrong sport to cover? And but what's going on, Chris? Let's get to. Are we going to close the show with our favorite Thanksgiving food or what?
I think we have to. Yeah. I have some controversial takes, about some may consider them controversial. They might not be controversial for others, but I have some interesting takes about Thanksgiving food. And of course, smoking birds. This is the Smoking Birds podcast from time to time. So we'll have one on the smoker this weekend. Honestly, huge weekend in sports. We got college football rivalry week. A lot of good stuff going on there. We, of course, have a huge slate of Premier League games. And then top that all off, for the nerds out here, we got MLS playoffs, baby. We got the conference semifinals, one being the Seattle Sounders hosting LAFC. I got a gaggle of friends going to that game. We'll be excited. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to a fun weekend of sports. And, in the EPL especially, there is a lot of tasty matchups.
Yeah, I got to get back to my Twitter thread of MLS bets, and I got to get back in the MLS mode for those. I was going to put together my record for that, but maybe I forgot a little bit. So while we were away, Everton got a 10-point deduction. We're not talking about Everton, but I just pulled up the table on our site here just to look at it, see what we're talking about here. We will be talking about Sheffield United and Bournemouth. They're fighting near the bottom of the table, but Everton. I'll just ask right now: do you think Everton are gonna stay above? I guess is the question here. Now they're sitting at 4 points, even though, granted, I guess while we're talking, there's still stuff going around that maybe they're even deducted more because a couple other teams complain about them, kind of a thing. But yeah, what do you think?
So that felt like an out of league suit against Everton, because some of those fans or some of those clubs that were relegated. I have no idea, the UK law, I'm not an expert on it, but I think, some of those clubs have a shout because of how the rules are broken and how they purchase players that, during that time that were able to help them to avoid relegation. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but yeah, tough outcome for Everton, and kind of makes you wonder maybe what's going on with some of those other clubs that have been under consideration for some breaches of I'm not going to name names, but we'll see. It's a big wait and see because I think Biggie or Tupac, they once said money beat the case, and so I think that could also be the case here. Is you get enough big time lawyers in a room, and throw a little money in it, and sometimes things are worked out, but. We'll see, but I do honestly. My friend who's an Everton fan, he texted me about it, and he's like, "We're done, so we're out of here." I was like, "If it's 10 points, I feel like, Sean Dyche, he can be a miracle worker, and they all have that mentality like we've been, in some degree, misrepresented or chip on their shoulder, aka. So I would be interested in if you can get some good odds in an Everton staying up bet right after they were
right. Unfortunately, I don't think you can. I pulled up the odds, but I mean they're 2 points back of Luton Town, who are now 17th place. So it's not like they're miles away. It's not like there's 5 game weeks left or something, and they're 10 points out or whatever. But relegated odds: Sheffield United are -600, Luton Town -400, Burnley -175, and Everton are +200. I know when we talked before the season, Burnley were, I don't know, projected to finish like 10, 11th or something like that. It would have been great to take with those odds or whatever they were, just because a ton of Burnley hype was going into it. But let's get into some of the games we're talking about. Actually, before we get in, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter, we have a couple mustaches going, but we have a donation going for Movember, movember.com/t/RotoWire. If you want to donate there, and I believe if you follow the rules, they're up on Twitter. I retweeted on the RotoWire Soccer Twitter account. But just like forward your receipt to social@rotowire.com, and you'll be in the running for a free 3-month trial at RotoWire. So check that out. If you have any extra cash to donate for a good cause over at Movember. But Chris, let's get into it. And check it out. We got our betting records on the front here. Sean Deitch. I'm not going to click into it. I don't want to look at my record any more than I have to, but the records are on the site now. So check those out if you want to see how we perform team by team kind of a thing. But the first game we're talking about, we usually talk about, the biggest game of the weekend is usually, the last one of the weekend. But we're actually talking about Manchester City and Liverpool first because it's the first game. It's an early one. It's a really early one for Chris. He's going to have to wake up from his coma at some point on Saturday for this game. But we got Manchester City -140 to win. Liverpool are +330, and the draw is +340. Over 2.5 goals is -205. Over 3.5 goals is +120, and then under 3.5 goals -150. So the implied total is kind of sitting in that 3-goal range. I don't think we'll see what the injury situation looks like. So for all these games we're talking about, we haven't really received any injury information. It's Wednesday coming out of the international break. Ederson had an issue a week ago where he had to drop from the national team. Haaland had his ankle issue, but it was reported it's the same ankle issue that he had a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago, and he started 3 days after suffering the initial issue. So otherwise, I think, we look at this list and there's a lot of names on here. John Stones has been injured most of the season, Kovacic, whatever. So I think they're mostly fine. And then Liverpool, I guess we don't really know the issue with Joe Gomez. We'll see about him. We'll see about Curtis Jones, and we'll see about Konate. So there's a lot of iffies, you could say, because Joe Matip started over Konate just before the break. And then Gakpo did start in that midfield role just before the break. So if you think maybe if Curtis Jones is back, he's probably starting the midfield over Gakpo kind of thing. But again, we don't have any of this information. So we're just going to go into it a little blind here. So Chris, Liverpool, are they going to win?
It's a pretty straight up question there. I don't think so. I think they might be able to get a point out of it. Otherwise, I would take City. The -140 not within the spectrum of where we bet, but if it was like -130, I'm probably on that bet. Honestly, last year I think it was 1-0 at Anfield. That like Mo Salah kind of runaway goal against, was that Cancelo at the time, and then 4-1 in this same fixture at home for Man City. So I do think that in this matchup, it's particularly tough for any of the away teams to get points. In the last 4 matches, the home team has won. That does include, I think, a community. I guess that would have been a neutral site at Wembley, a Community Shield win. The last time that there was the away team won was that 3-2 FA Cup match. I think it was a semifinal. That was 2 seasons ago, I believe, where Liverpool beat Manchester City. Otherwise, it's typically the home team taking the points here. Man City did beat Liverpool in the Premier League in 2021. They did it, and I guess that was again another neutral site. But what I'm saying is it's really tough for the away team to take points, I think, twice in the past like maybe 12 matches. That being said, what we have seen in this matchup is a boatload of goals. Very, very occasionally is there like a 1-0. There's been a couple. There was a 1-1 back in 2020. I think there was no fans there. There was the 1-0 last year that Liverpool won at Anfield. Otherwise, it's been like 2-2, 4-1. 3-1, like a lot of these big goals. I mean, last year there was, they had 4-1, 3-2 in the League Cup. There was, of course, the Community Shield, which was 3-1, another 3-2. It's a ton of goals is what I'm saying. it will be interesting to see who is back in the lineup. I mean, the Ederson thing is probably the most concerning of both teams' injuries, considering, are they putting in who's their backup, or is it Ortega?
Yeah, Ortega.
Okay. Obviously a step down from Ederson there, so that would be concerning if I was, if I was Manchester City. Of course, a lot of these players are coming back from playing international matches. I know, I think Alex McAllister played 90 for Argentina last night in that Brazil match. Darwin Nunez played for Uruguay. I'm sure City have some guys that are coming back from. I mean, Holland played in a couple of matches for Norway. So both teams coming back with some guys who who played in the international break. So that could give us a little shuffling of the lineups. But yeah, it'll be a fun one. 4:30 a.m. out here. I think the most interesting thing here for me is I like the over 3.5 goals at plus 120. You mentioned that you're getting absolutely no value on over 2.5 at, I think it was minus 200.
Mm-hmm.
In 9 of these. In 9 of the past 11 matches, there's been at least 4 to 5 goals in this matchup, and the two matches being that 1-0 last year, and then I think it was a league cup match a couple years ago. So there's been a ton of goals, and then notably a lot of those, a big part of that is most solid. This is a secondary bet, so my bet is the over 3.5 plus 120. I love a good Mo Salah against the top 6 bet for anytime goal scoring. He's played 19 matches against Manchester City in his career. He's got 11 goals, 5 assists. So something to consider there. And then if you really want to double down on the goals and, perhaps Manchester City winning this one at home, you can get both teams to score, no draw. I managed to not write down those odds, but I think it was like plus 150. So we're expecting goals is what I'm seeing from the odds makers. Any thoughts on that? Looks like you're on an over as well.
Yeah, I remember talking about this matchup last season. I think we had kind of the same sentiment. We went into that first one, the first one that finished 1-0. I think we're probably on like over 3.5.
Yeah.
Both teams to score, no draw kind of a thing. And actually, the last couple of years that we've talked about, it's like there's always goals in this game. Why don't we just bet? Why don't we just bet goals? So that's what we're doing because it seems like there's always goals. And Liverpool away, it has not been the same as Liverpool home this season. So that's kind of why I'm going with the single game parlay. I got Manchester City money line with over 2.5 goals at plus 125. So in case a 2-1, some kind of result, 3-0, sorry, Chris, happens, I am safe from Chris's over 3.5 goals bet. But this matchup just produces goals. I don't. There's no other way to look at it. We also have the injuries. We have the questions in Liverpool's midfield. You have all those things, and then you have some weird things with Manchester City. Maybe Akanji's playing in the John Stones role, some stuff like that, where it changes some things. They just gave up 4 goals against Chelsea, so goals can be had from both sides in this game. And we said it last year. We're going to keep saying it for the next matchup. Why don't we just bet goals in this game? So I just threw in Manchester City money line because they're at home, and because I think overall they're probably a better team as well. So might as well throw that in there. That's plus 125 though.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair bet. Anything, I think I saw plus 330 for Liverpool money line. I wouldn't bet that at all. Manchester City just too quality of an opponent to think that they go in there and take 3 points. The draw, perhaps. But still, every time these guys play, it's usually the home team winning or pulling away at some point. Looks like we got a comment here from Steven. It says Mo Salah, the tap-in merchant. Steven's been listening to the show for a couple seasons now. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. He must be watching the games, and for him to say that, it's just disappointing.
So if you look at the FPL cheat sheet, Manchester City it's a weird week where we have so many close games. Manchester City in this matchup is the biggest favorite of all the 10 matchups in the Premier League this weekend. And then Erling Haaland is minus 150. He still has the best goal odds of anyone. So even though, this is top of the table battle, there's a lot of close matchups this week. And as you'll see, as we talk about the next couple of games, and then even our team parlay, there's a lot of close games. So even though it's Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester City are still the biggest favorite of the 10 games this week. So let's
crazy.
get into that. Yeah, let's get into that next game. We're going from the top of the table all the way to the bottom of the table. We got Sheffield United, our home, coming off, yes, their first one of the season. They're home against Bournemouth. Sheffield United are plus 220. Bournemouth are plus 120. The draw is plus 250. You can get over 2.5 goals at minus 120. Under 2.5 goals is minus 105. We could get Oliver McBurney back in the starting 11 for Sheffield United, which I think is a pretty big help for him. Even though it's McBurney, he is probably their best goal scorer, and he's a big presence up front for him. Bournemouth are mostly fine. Billing, I think he's going to be back from his minor issue before the break. We'll see about Vinicius and Sheffield's midfield, and they might have some other guys coming back. They've had a ton of injuries this season. But when I first look at this, and when I continue to look at this, Bournemouth at plus 120 away from home. I don't think Bournemouth should be this big of a favorite against anyone in the league. Away from home. Maybe at home they can be, plus 120 favorite, but away from home as a favorite, I just don't trust in Bournemouth. Can you trust in Bournemouth?
No, you can't trust any of these teams. I think is the short answer. I was looking at, I love looking at the away and home splits and like how they perform. Sheffield United, I think they have 4 points at home this season, which is close. I mean, Burnley, who have not won a game at home and given up a ton of goals, they're sitting on 0. Then I think there was one other team ahead of Sheffield in terms of home performance or in terms of doing poorly at home. That was Luton Town. They've got 2 points. Sheffield, at home, they've scored 6 goals. They've given up 16. They've been kind of that's pretty civvy. So I kind of trust Bournemouth in this spot a little bit. I didn't take them for my trust bet, but I could see them taking a point here is what I'm saying. If not, maybe 3 here. They have actually, and when I say that, I need to back up and say that they've, along with Sheffield United, Bournemouth and Sheffield United are the 2 worst away teams. Bournemouth, of course, traveling Sheffield United here. So it's a matchup of 2 teams that are particularly bad. It was as I was looking through a couple of bet options, I was a bit concerned. Sheffield giving up the second most goals at home in 6 matches. And of course, I mentioned Bournemouth being poor, but I'm going to go for a little generic bet here. 2 to 3 goals bans is plus 100. I don't see this one being like a 2-2 affair, the 3-2 affair. I think, we could even see, hopefully not a 1-0. But I think just given, that would scare me a little bit, but I like a 2-1 or a 2-0 win here potentially for Bournemouth.
A 2-0 win for Bournemouth? Get out of here.
I call it a 1-1 draw, whatever. I'm just saying there's going to be 2 goals, 3 goals. It's quite a generic bet here, but I hate this matchup. I think maybe we'll have to be tuned in.
I love this matchup. Blades against the Cherries.
Oh yeah, huge Blades and Cherries guy here.
I think it's going to be 1-1 or 2-1 Sheffield United. And I got a bet in my article that includes I'll say it right now. There is a bet in my article that includes Sheffield United double chance. I'm not brave enough to take Sheffield United money line. I was very close to doing that in this bet, but it is Sheffield United. It is Sheffield United. So I'm not going to go that far, but I do want to point out their home matches. So they had that 8-0 home loss against Newcastle, which I think is kind of fresh in everyone's minds because, it was 8-0. The first match, they lost 1-0 against Crystal Palace. Okay, they battled against Manchester City 2-1, almost got a point from that. 2-2, higher scoring than everyone thought. They were up 2-1 at one point against Everton. Also against Manchester United, that was a 2-1 loss. Many also thought they should have gotten a point of that. And then they had the 2-1 win against Wolverhampton. You can see Bournemouth's results there's a lot of tougher matchups, so I'm not sure you can take away a ton from it, but they did lose 3-0 at Everton recently. And I think Sheffield United are the team to take on this one. If they get McBurney back, Bournemouth are playing differently than they have last season. Obviously, with Iraola as their manager, they're attacking a little more. They're getting more. They're they're attacking a little more. It's just not leading to goals. And Sheffield United have actually played outside of the Newcastle game when they allowed 8 goals. They've actually been holding down decent attacks, you could say. And my theory with this bet, as I get into my bet here, Chris is shaking his head. He's like, "Where's this bet at?" But my theory is that Sheffield United, they know they can take at least a point out of this one, and I think they know they can get 3 points out of this, and that's usually when I bet for lower scoring matches. And I'm going under 4.5 corners in the first half at -105. So the theory is that, okay, they're playing things a little safer. Sheffield United don't want to go out for the attack right away. They don't want to be, in range for Bournemouth getting a goal or two early and being down at home and having to force the issue. They're going to want to keep things tight. They're not going to want to allow a goal early. They'll be fine if it's scoreless at halftime, kind of a thing. So I think it's going to be kind of slow in the first half. It's not like Bournemouth are that good of a team to, force the issue and just dominate and rack up 5 corners away from home, kind of a thing. So under 4.5 corners in the first half at -105. You don't agree with me with Sheffield United, but do you agree with that first half?
I like your theory on Sheffield sitting in sitting under 4.5 corners. I think that makes sense too. God forbid you go out early, but if you ever did, and there was a gravestone, we'd have to put, I like Sheffield United in the spot. They're getting Ollie McBurney back. If you happen to go out early, hopefully it's a long, fruitful life. But if not, we got to put that on the gravestone. That might have been the cause.
Yeah, but I mean, they already have a healthy James McAtee. They have a healthy Gustavo Hammer. They got all these studs that are healthy.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm not mentioning them. Yeah, Cameron Archer, come on. No respect.
Good call. At home against the Cherries,
Clearly you're not
big. He's gonna go win some aerials.
You're not a true bladesman.
Put it in the mixer for the
big fella. See here.
Yeah, you're right.
I think McBurney's going to score. You called out. We talked about it before the show. You called about Neil Maupay a couple weeks ago. He ended up scoring for Brentford. I think McBurney's going to get the winner in this one. So if you want,
has there been any Twitter hype from the club account about McBurney getting back? Like maybe some.
I think there will be
photos of him in training. If that's the case, then maybe you're right.
I think there will be. He's plus 230 to score. I should have taken that for being honest, but I'll do that for their next home game. We'll say. Next game we got is another top of the table. Yeah, we're looking at the top of the table. I don't have the table up anymore, but I think these teams are both top 6, right?
Yeah, they are. We got let's see, Tottenham's 4th on 26 points. Aston Villa 5th on 25 points, with a perfect home record. Both of these teams have a perfect home record, which is, interesting, I believe. Oh, sorry. Tottenham drew that one. Or I guess they lost the game at home to Chelsea. That must have been.
When they got that. They had those red cards. That whole that great match that happened.
Yeah.
So these teams were battling for whatever it was. I think it was 7th and 8th in the table last season, and then Tottenham, Aston Villa won 2-1. Late or middle of May. So that I think that got them the edge to 7th place. That's why they're in the Europa Cup or Europa Conference League. And that's why Tottenham are not. But we got Tottenham plus 135 to win. And Aston Villa are at plus 175. The draw is plus 285. You can get over 3.5 goals. So respecting goals here. Plus 120. Under 3.5 goals is minus 160. Of course, we got a bunch of questions. Aston Villa have no questions, really. It's been the same guys pretty much all season. But Romero is still suspended. Basuma is suspended for 5 yellow cards. So he's a new suspension from the last game. We know James Madison's out. We know all these other guys are out. Udogie is the question coming back from his hamstring issue that he had just before the break. If he isn't ready, it'll be Emerson again playing on the left back opposite of Pedro Porro. So as you can see in the lineup, I moved in Bentancur over Basuma, who is suspended. So without James Madison, they went to this 4-3-3, and they basically replaced Madison in the starting 11 with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. So that is a problem, of course. And how do you play this overall this Tottenham lineup where they have two non-starting center backs. They have possibly the return of Betancourt, who's came off the bench 3 times this season. The return of Betancourt to the starting 11, Højbjerg in the starting 11. They just don't have the creative force really without James Maddison. So how do you think Tottenham deal with that?
I think, it's interesting because they're not like set up to and just got them playing a pretty, high line attacking football where like the players that they're putting out there this week is like maybe not set up perfectly for that kind of system. You got club legends, Eric Dyer and Ben Davies probably holding it down at center back. Doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence, but still, I'm interested to see if they like take the, if like tactically they take the foot off the gas slightly. Because
you think so after all of Postecoglou's comments this season?
I'm not saying that's what they do, but like everything, about it, you're like, maybe it might be worth it to sit in a bit. We're playing a pretty quality opponent. We're missing a boatload of our best players. Unfortunately, I mean, they still have a pretty strong attack with Sonsen and Brennan Johnson, and they're going to be missing Maddison, but like they got some guys who can score some goals there. But still, interested to see what happens with some of those guys coming back from internationals and these injuries. But you just look at it and you're like, they gotta play a different style than playing it up top or playing a very high line. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Aston Villa, most notably here, Tottenham, one of the better defensive teams at home. Of course, that probably doesn't surprise many people. They've given up 6 goals at home so far. They've only scored 9 goals though, which is kind of interesting. You'd expect, the same teams who have the similar defensive record have kind of filled it up. Looking at like the Man Cities, the Aston Villas, the at home at least, the Liverpools of the world. Meanwhile, Aston Villa, despite them being 6-0, playing at home, they've been kind of pretty poor away from when they travel. They've scored, they've only scored 6 goals away from home in 6 matches. They've given up 12. I'd have to remember some of the specific matches, but
3-0 at Liverpool is that stands out. 5-1 at Newcastle.
Yeah, so I mean, 8 of those 12 goals coming in 2 matches, but from a points perspective, it's not like they've been good either. So they've been way better at home. Both, that kind of leads me to believe this might be like a low scoring affair. I like I think did I have under 2.5 goals at plus 155. Despite maybe Tottenham's lack of defensive options, I think they'll still be pretty well set up. I think Villa might struggle a bit too. So I'm on that. I'm a little weary of it. I kind of don't mind the Tottenham money line bet if I was to pick a side at plus 135. But I kind of expect like a low scoring affair here, maybe like a 1-1 or a 1-0 or something like that, 2-0. But I could be totally wrong on that. That's what I feel for the match.
Yeah, I agree with this bet. I agree with the under mentality, just based off of Aston Villa away from home this season. It was last season where, the first season under Unai Emery, they were a better team away from home, and I was always betting on them away from home. But after some of these results, I've been kind of off of that Wolverhampton one, and then I was on Nottingham Forest. I forgot exactly what I took in that one, but Nottingham Forest ended up winning 2-0. So I do like that. You're going heavy with the plus 155 instead of the minus 160, which is the under 3.5. So I think it's going to be in that 1-1, 2-1 range. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And the thing that stands out to me, we have a 1-game sample size really of this Postecoglou Tottenham side without James Maddison. And at Wolverhampton, they had almost 60% possession, but they only managed 6 shots and they had 0.7 expected goals. And that stuff happens when you lose a guy like James Maddison. Maybe Lo Celso or someone else comes in the starting 11 and Postecoglou, he realized, okay, we need someone to actually get the ball and actually advance it forward other than basically 3 defensive midfielders to a certain extent with what they had in there. So if they line up like this, I mean, even if they throw in someone like Lo Celso or I don't know, Brian Gill or something, or they really mix things up a little bit, they're not they're not very deep up front. That is kind of one of their issues, especially when you throw in the James Madison, Richarlison injuries, Manor Solomon injury as well. So that's kind of why I'm leaning on with this bet. I went Aston Villa raised to 5 corners at plus 155. Funny enough, we're both on plus 155 bets. I think that means they both have to win. But it's just under this theory where, okay, how much maybe they want to attack. Maybe Tottenham do want to attack, but are they going to be able to without Madison? Okay, they've had the international break to kind of figure things out, but I'm still kind of doubting it a little bit. And usually I like trusting Unai Emery. And then even in a spot like this, maybe Tottenham get a goal in the first half or something. You're also in play for, okay, then I think Aston Villa will have the ability to push the rest of the way, or at least to push and rack up corners to where they're getting 5 corners first. So I think there's a couple ways that this bet hits, but I like the odds here. Villa raised to 5 corners is plus 155, and then Chris is under 2.5 goals plus 155. So what do you think? Do you think Tottenham get the win, or is this more of maybe a draw kind of thing, plus 285?
I think I think the draw. That might be the coward's way out, but Tottenham are just banged up. They're missing their best players. 3 of their best players. I mean, Romero maybe not, but Van de Ven had been just simply class coming into that starting 11. And, Eric Dyer and Ben Davies aren't covering ground like he's covering ground. And it just makes the whole rest of the pitch, run smoothly. Obviously, James Madison, big, huge absence. He's probably their player of the year so far, even in the league. Had he not been injured, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, last year though, you look at it, and Aston Villa won 2-1 at home. Then they visited Tottenham when Tottenham was pretty. That was on New Year's Day. I think that might have been. I don't remember the exact day that Conte went on his little rant about Tottenham. It might have been a little later, but that was the beginning of the end. So they won that one 2-0. But yeah, I think I like Villa or Tottenham to take some points here. Maybe I would rather have them money line, I guess, but it's all over the place.
Yeah, maybe Tottenham a little lucky at times this season. Sorry to the Spurs fans, but maybe they get lucky again. Yeah. On to the team parlay, Chris. You are looking at this interesting West Ham Burnley match. I have a bet on this match in my article. That'll be up again Friday morning. Check it out. I like that one a lot, actually. Burnley are at home against West Ham. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
Yeah, I just try to, these these parlay bets, I try to go to the well. I try to go for the ones that are working out a lot. Usually that's like Man City to win by however, 1.5 goals or 2.5 goals, Liverpool at home. Something that is typically happening on any given weekend. And for me here, I looked at a team like Burnley, who has been, I mentioned it at least once, but who's been really poor at home. They played 6 matches. They've lost all 6 matches. They've scored 4 goals in those matches and given up 18 goals total. Yes, maybe some of the opponents have been pretty tough. They lost to Aston Villa 3-1. I think they lost to, was it City to start the season at home? That was 3-0. They lost Tottenham at home 5-2, Manchester United 1-0, Chelsea 4-1, and Crystal Palace 2-0. So some top sides aside from maybe Crystal Palace, no shade. But they're giving up goals is what I'm saying. West Ham, maybe not the most attacking side, but they've been decent. They scored 3 goals at Brighton, 2 goals at Luton. They were held to 1 goal against Aston Villa and Liverpool away, but they just recently lost to Brentford 3-2. So they are able to score goals. Of course, Burnley giving up a couple each match at home. I like the West Ham over 1.5 goals. It's minus 115. I think that they can score at least 2 goals in this match, unless somehow by miracle Vincent Kompany's got Burnley playing a little bit more condensed, I should say. So I'm on that one. That felt like a kind of an automatic, trying to look for the easy layup, which of course is maybe not the best way to do things, but I think that's where we're at.
I'm just trying to look through some news here because there hasn't really been anything. We haven't seen anything in the past 24 hours on Jared Bowen. But if Jared Bowen was out, I think we know that Mikel Antonio is going to be out. Yeah. If Jared Bowen's out, do you still like this bet?
I'd be concerned a little bit more, but I don't know. Burnley, it's more like, yeah, I guess they'd have to play. I mean, we have Bowen in the starting 11 over at RotoWire.com, but they're going to play. Is he? And Kudos would be in, or Kudus would be in, I guess.
Kudus has been starting. Yeah, they've been kind of changing some things up. So it'd be like Suchek would be playing kind of an attacking role, and you have GWP and Alvarez back, and then you have Kudus and Paqueta on the wings, with Bowen kind of a false nine.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be concerned, but yeah, I mean, Burnley have just been so bad. Like, they let Palace score twice. Do we think the Palace attack is better than the West Ham attack without Jared Bowen?
Currently with Olise and Eze.
Did they have them in that match?
I think Kudus is probably no, not Olise. No, I still think West Ham's probably better.
Yeah.
In
that match where they gave
like
up
I think if Bowen doesn't start, they'd start Ben Rama, and Ben Rama's pretty good as well. So
yeah. I mean, in that game where they gave up 2 goals to Palace, the starting attack was Will Hughes, the ghost of Will Hughes, Jordan Ayew, and then Jeffrey Schlupp out on the left. So it's not like they, I still, even despite this, I still like the Crystal Palace attack.
I just went down a rabbit hole on this Jared Bowen injury. There's some random Twitter doctor that's saying he might need knee surgery or something, but I have no idea who this Twitter doctor is, so I'm not going to.
We can't be citing Twitter doctors on our podcast. This is a reputable podcast.
Yeah, I'll wait for David Moyes to actually say something about that. So Chris has, I'll pull it up here on the screen. Chris has West Ham over 1.5 goals against Burnley. That's -115. I did some digging. I almost considered. So as I said, I almost went with Sheffield United money line. I actually almost went with Nottingham Forest money line. They're +210 at home against Brighton. Brighton are really struggling. I almost went with corners in Crystal Palace, Luton Town, but I'm going to this Brentford Arsenal match. And I told Chris, I saw a tweet about, Brentford talking about this game being under the lights, and, it's Thomas Frank off a break, never a great sign, but this line movement is on my side here. For the past 2 weeks, Brentford have gone from +285 to win. Now they're at +360 to win. So I got Arsenal money line at Brentford at -130. So the one thing that actually sold me here is these teams actually already played under the lights at Brentford back in September. This was in the EFL Cup. Brentford put in pretty much their A squad for the most part. They had Visa and Bomo starting, pretty much their set midfield. Arsenal had a pretty heavy B squad. Emil Smith-Rowe started, Sago Jr., Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Ben White was a center back. Kiwior started that one. Arsenal still managed to have 60% possession. They still managed to win 1-0. That is what sold me in this spot. I still am not heavy on Brentford overall. I know I do like betting on Brentford and Thomas Frank, but still they don't have Ivan Toney. They don't have their starting 2 fullbacks in Aaron Hickey and Rico Henry. And when you're going against Saka on the wing, when you're going against Martinelli on the wing, not having your top 2 fullbacks is an issue. So that's kind of why I'm going with Arsenal here. They're -130 to win. And when you put that with West Ham over 1.5 goals at -115, we get +230 odds. Chris, I'm on 3 in a row in the team parlay. So,
nice.
if you catch up the pace, we got ours last week. We're gonna be on a run here pretty soon here. So,
yeah, that was big. The lads were buzzing after we hit our parlay 2 weekends ago here. Pretty pumped up. I like both of our bets here. I'm surprised because I think Thomas Frank is probably Adam's managerial crush. So big for you to bet against him, but I'm interested in this one. It would be huge if we go back to back game weeks with the parlay hitting.
I know I can bet against my heart. That's how good of a bettor I am. I can bet against my heart.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Chris. So actually, so what's your favorite Thanksgiving?
Oh, first of all, I'm going to give a bonus bet.
Seattle Sounders.
Yeah, baby. We got LAFC coming into Lumen Field now on Sunday. 6:30 local, so 3:30 out on the East Coast. Should be a big game. Sounders, they win this, they should have another home match. I've been to the first two games, and they both were good games. Of course, I think LAFC, a bit of a different opponent. They've been pretty good over the last couple of years. This one just yells at me as I pull up the MLS bets here on the numbers on DraftKings. Seattle Sounders plus 125 money line in the big house. I wonder if they'll open
the big house.
No, I'm not. I'm curious if they open up the second tier, or the top tier of seats. They typically have those closed for Sounders games. All I know is they are charging a premium for these playoff tickets, man. Usually you can get in there for like $40, and they were definitely more for this game. So I was kind of rattled.
Wait, how often the Seahawks play Thursday and this game Sunday? How often do they do that big of a turnaround or that short?
I was thinking about that too, because it wasn't the last couple matches. They were away, or one of the, so they were 2 weekends ago. I think it was, they were,
they're usually like a week separated probably. Right?
Yeah. And then they had the Seahawks were like away playing like the Giants or some LA or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, a quick turnaround for the lads, especially on Thanksgiving. They'll probably be back in on Black Friday, just switching out it's not like they're switching out the field. I guess they are. Yeah. They're switching out at least I don't know how this works, but I'm interested to know. But then if they don't have the third tier or whatever, the top tier of seats, they usually like put out the Sounders, whatever covers. But yeah, should be a big game. I'll be in attendance. Sounders plus 125. Back on topic though, Thanksgiving bets or Thanksgiving food.
Thanksgiving bets. All right.
Yeah, bets. So, turkey for me is a bottom tier meat. It's not what I'm getting after. I think most people could probably agree with that. I think there's some good
It is a popular take. It is a popular take.
Like, give me chicken over turkey pretty much any day. But I'm gonna be smoking a bird on Thursday or tomorrow.
What kind of bird?
I got an 18-pound turkey. We'll be spatchcocking that.
So it is a turkey. Okay.
It is a turkey. All year I was talking crap. I was like, I'm not gonna do a bird. We're just gonna do some nice, New York strips or something like that. Because I love beef, but don't love turkey. But we'll be smoking a bird either way. There's a lot of talk in the group chat. Like, how are we not going to have a turkey? So we'll get that dry brine going today. Spatchcock that sucker.
How many people are you feeding?
10, I think. 10.
Okay. I was going to say 18 pounds. It's big.
But then you get I will say the leftover turkey is honestly better than the actual turkey, in my opinion. Because you can make like you can make some
turkey
sandwiches, turkey tacos. We do like a turkey tetrazzini bake. It's like a white sauce kind of spaghetti, or not spaghetti, but pasta-based dish. So that's pretty good. But I'm not a big turkey guy. I'm gonna leave the cranberry off the plate. Any cranberry-related thing. Mostly though, a lot of good stuff. I love Brussels sprouts, but yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Big Brussels sprouts guy.
Starches and sprouts. Those are my go-to, and then the gambit of pies. Like let me put down like a 3 to 5 piece on the pies for sure. Pecan being the first overall rank.
Okay. Good. Yeah, that's.
What about you? What do we got for your Turkey Day takes?
I was gonna say, just backing off your pecan pie take. That is my number one. Apple pie, bottom of the list. Apple pie is too boring for me. It's just not. Wow. I'm not a true American, but it's just not. It's just not my favorite one. If I have 10 choices of pie, as long as there's not like, I don't know, some weird pie, apple pie is going to be the 10th one I take from the list. So I would put pumpkin pie above that, pecan pie above that. Shepherd's pie for dessert.
Love a good shepherd's pie for dessert.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think shepherd's pie are good.
For sure.
I used to be, back in the day, I was probably heavy on mashed potatoes, but it's kind of boring. It's a little boring, but you can do some smashed mashed potatoes. You can mix it up a little bit, put some more fixins in it, kind of thing. But I've kind of advanced to sweet potato a little bit as well. Maybe not the ones with marshmallows on top. That's just too sweet.
Yeah, those
It's
ones
just too
are
sweet. Like
yeah.
that's a dessert. Like I guess replace the marshmallows and sweet potatoes. Use that instead of the apple pie. I'll say have that for dessert instead.
Interesting. Yeah, yams. I'm a pretty like I would eat sweet potatoes as like, a potato style, but not like when you've added like sugar and other stuff to them. It's just kind of gross.
Yeah, it just kind of adds to it. But thank you for the. We got 3 live listeners that are just listening to our Thanksgiving takes here. So shouts to the live listeners. Shouts
Yeah.
to Steve for calling Salah the tap in merchant. But everyone have a great Thanksgiving. And if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, let's win some bets. Let's win some money. That's why we're here. We're gonna get these numbers back. Chris has been telling me all week he's got to get above 500. He's got to get back above 500. So that's what we're gonna do here. Again, rotowire.com/soccer trial to get all the stuff. That's 48-hour trial. We got predicted lineups up. We got FPL rankings up, Fantrax rankings up. We got a lot of good stuff. We got the FPL cheat sheet as well. And then I'll throw on, if you're watching, I'll throw on the link, Movember.com/T/RotoWire. If you want to donate there, you get in the raffle for a free 3-month trial at RotoWire. So, Chris, thank you for these bets. Let's win some money this weekend. Let's eat some 18 pounds of turkey. And good luck to you in your spatchcocking. How about that?
Thank you. I need the help with the spatchcocking.